Welcome to The Bone, the podcast that goes deeper. Here we cut through the noise and get straight to the core of the issues that matter. From real stories to raw truths, we dive deep into the conversations that shape our world and challenge our thinking. We're not afraid to dig in and get to the marrow of it all. Whether it's life, culture, or business in sports medicine, we're here to break it down raw and real. No filters, no fluff, just to the bone. With your host, Shelby Daly, we're getting to the bone. This is a clinically pressed, approved CEU podcast. Find the quiz to gain credit at clinicallypressed.org/courses. Clinically Pressed Company, making the complicated simple through results that give back. Find out more at clinicallypressed.org. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Bone. Today I have Tyler Christensen, and he's coming in from Texas, San Antonio area. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice and hot.
Yeah, we're getting we're supposed to be up to 106 tomorrow, I believe.
So,
yeah.
Great day for grilling.
Yeah.
Today I wanted to have Tyler on. There's been definitely a range of posts across social media about the decision on the H2F program and athletic trainers. And I want to just pick Tyler's brain about his perception as an outsider and possibly some insights on what athletic training could be doing better to help secure our positions or promote ourselves better. Right now, Tyler is currently at Oval as a Director of Government Business Development and previously was a tactical strength and conditioning coach, if that's correct. Mm-hmm. You can go into that more and let us know all you've done.
So my background is as a strength and conditioning coach. I worked mostly in the special operations community for POTIF, what people know, preservation of the force in the family. Ranging from the clandestine to, I don't want to say regular special forces, but the special forces community. In 2014, we had a massive layoff because and this might tie a little bit into kind of what we're going through now. So with POTIF, they had a massive layoff in 2014 because money can only be allocated from certain pots to support the POTIF program. And within POTIF, they have two different pots of money, where H2F, they have one pot of money they can draw from. So we're working at different levels, but this will come probably back around in our conversation. So in 2014, got massive, layoff across the board. Lots of people, including AT, strength coaches, a lot of people lost jobs across the board. I was lucky enough to land on my feet at the National Strength and Conditioning Association. It's the main certifying body for strength coaches for people unfamiliar. And I ran their tactical program. In that time, I developed a practitioner course. We call it the TSAC, Tactical Strength and Conditioning Practitioner course. I developed that program, and it just took off like wildfire. I think at that time, I was the right person at the right place with the right decisions at that specific time, that the program kind of blew up in a good way, and really took off for strength and conditioning, leading into the aspect of the POTIF program. Worked with KBR diligently to point out the pain points in that contract, to ultimately win that contract for KBR. So you're talking $500 million, small chunk of change there. But after I finished at the NSCA, I was offered an opportunity to be a GS-14. So people who don't know about the government work, the pay system goes 1 to 15, and I was I was a GS-14. So as a human performance director, we had doctors, we had athletic trainers, we had physical therapists, we had strength coaches, dietitians. We had the whole gamut of care across the pipeline. And I think that's why I kind of see this in a different light, is just because I kind of saw the bigger picture of what the moving pieces were. So and this is one thing I want to want to weigh heavy. Like, it's like, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have a bias one way or the other. But, and like, I've stepped away from the industry almost. So again, I'm not coming from a bias point. I try not to come from a bias point, but just looking objectively at this problem, I think there's two main things that can be solved. But eventually I left. So yeah, I'm currently at Oval. And with Oval, I do business development, government sales, essentially. So I use some of my contacts that I have now. So yeah.
So with your transition, was there something that pushed you out of doing the tactical strength and conditioning, or just next phase of life, or?
Yeah. This might sound a little selfish in the aspect, like, I've kind of maxed out kind of where I can go in the industry. And this is not saying I cannot learn more. This is not saying that, I can't do, there's not more to learn. There's not more to do. Like, I'm not saying that at all. Just for me personally and professionally, I feel like I was riding on the front side of a wave for a little bit. And with that, like, I needed to take a break. So that's part of it. And then I took a break with Oval, and looking back, I don't know where I would go. So I'm kind of, I guess, potentially lost of where I would fit in the equation now. But yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want it to come as, like, I can see how some people are like, oh, boasting. But it's I had to take a break, and I stepped away, but now seeing where I fit in again, and I'm kind of lost in that picture. So
yeah. Well, I think that's one thing in athletic training, maybe the same as you, but we have a short ladder of advancement ultimately. And then the next step after that ladder is to really step away from athletic training into administrative, athletic director, these managerial positions where you're not doing the day-to-day athletic training. And I think people reach that threshold very quickly. Many athletic training programs are only maybe a team of 2 to 3 athletic trainers, unless you're at like D1. Even the professional teams, they really only have maybe 2 to 3 athletic trainers. So what do you do after that? You become a director? We haven't really figured out the next step while keeping our feet in the athletic training realm sometimes.
Yeah. So when I was at the NSCA, I was the manager of that program. I ran into that first there because I came from 7th Group Special Forces, and where I was a coach on the ground, on day to day. And then I realized, like, I was still working with the Colorado Springs SWAT team at the NSCA there, but I found that you need to make a decision. Do you want to stay down? And it's not down in a hierarchy, but what job responsibilities you want? Do you want to continue to treat, or in my case, train, or do you want to kind of do the more managerial and take your career, right? So I was kind of already conditioned for that through the NSCA, and then with the job at Special Warfare, I think I was ready for a director position, just with a more robust, larger program. And then we were the first human performance support group in the DoD. We were, the first on a lot of things, and with such a massive pipeline. So I got to work with Chase Feldberg. He's one of I think he still is the head AT at Special Warfare. So I even had a chance to talk with him a little bit prior to this. So, yeah.
Comfortable, low profile, flexible, and easy to put on, the Vero ankle brace is simply the best ankle brace for those who move. And that's just about everybody. This brace is adaptable for any phase of injury recovery, whether you're recovering from an ankle sprain, require extra support for your day-to-day, or want to boost your performance. The Vero ankle brace delivers. The Vero ankle brace uses every movement and every step to give you extra boost. The 3-in-1 brace can be worn on either foot, making it the most optimal ankle brace for injury recovery and prevention. The removable stirrups, easy adjust Velcro, and breathable design adapt to your ankle as your strength returns, helping to protect you from re-injury. A dynamic support brace designed by leading orthopedic foot and ankle surgeons. The Vero ankle brace effortlessly adapt to your movements, offering dynamic energy return and support with each step. VeroAnkle.com. Check it out for yourself. VeroAnkle.com. That's VeroAnkle.com.
Just to keep the conversation on this point. So, do you feel that you met the threshold, obviously, but did you feel that the organization wasn't ready to keep influencing you to keep building the program, or did you think that
not at all. Like, the organization is still very young. So again, being the first human performance support group in the DoD, in the years, like, we started with 15 people, and I think we're currently around they are around 230s, 260s, something like that. So there's still room to grow, still room to refine, still room to do a lot of things. So when I said, like, I needed to take a break because every day was grinding, coming from the NSCA and that program blowing up like it did, going to this position and grinding. It was time for me to take a break, and maybe somebody with a different skill set could come in. I was kind of doing the framework type thing. Dave Harrigan's not there now, and I think he's going to do an amazing job with his direction and where he's going with things. And yeah, I just think it was the right time for me to take what they call a tactical knee, take a break, step away, recharge my batteries. And then now I'm ready to, but now that I'm ready and recharged and ready to go back to battle, it's just kind of, where do I fit in the paradigm of things? So
gotcha. Yeah, kind of, you're creating so much that ran out of kind of some of the fuel. So back to our topic of discussion, with all the discussions about the H2F and the potential issues of why the athletic trainers were maybe moved out of the position that they were contracted for, I heard that it was improperly distributed money that was funding that, and so basically they have to restart and repropose and get funding for the athletic trainers again. So just kind of a starting back at square one. But from your perception, what are some of the tidbits that you've taken away from this whole situation, especially since you've experienced it in a different setting to an extent, or a different makeup?
Let's start here of how people are indoctrinated. Like, when I was younger, my first introduction to an AT was on the football team, and you're handing out water and taping ankles. Okay. Then I went into exercise science, and then I learned more about the bigger picture, right? So you got to think, a lot of people without a sports background, like, they think they're indoctrinated to think that ATs tape ankles and give water, right? If they weren't sports inclined, and I called a couple of people that are not in the human performance realm, and I asked them, "Is like, what's an AT do?" And four of the 5 people I asked that question to, they said they're a glorified personal trainer. And so, like, the messaging becomes a conundrum, I think, in your realm. You try to be the jack of all trades and the master of none, right? So you can do some of what physical therapy do. You can do some of what the strength coach does, right? If you did a Venn diagram, those overlapping parts, and you guys are just like, I look at it like you're laying roots everywhere, but they're shallow roots. Therefore, it makes you easy to pull. because you're not standing out in what I think your greatest, and I kind of brought it up in that post, is like you prevent injuries, right? And I should have said it in a different way, in the aspect of reoccurring type injuries. In the aspect, I think you're, and again, just thinking, I'm not an AT, put all the buffer words in here.
Yeah.
In my time as a strength coach and working with physical therapists and stuff, the greatest asset, in my opinion, that an AT does is what we call the bridge program, is where a PT's done with them and said, okay, you can return. I, as a strength coach, I go more on the conservative end, and I'm afraid to re-injure them. Where I think for a athletic trainer is like, that's your wheelhouse. That's your moneymaker. That's what's the word I'm looking for? That's where I'd be planting my flag if I were you guys, is what we call bridge, because you're going to be more aggressive because you understand the rehabilitation process more than a strength coach, and you understand the performance process more than a physical therapist. Like, that's your moneymaker. The rest of that Venn diagram, those are skills that are, they're over here, they're over here. It's like, well, we got both these parts. What do we need these people for? Yeah. And I think that, I understand that you guys have a wide variety of skill set. Like, like in the special operations community, they have like this saying is like, we're the jack of all trades, master of none. Like, it's a hell yeah, we're awesome. We can do a little bit of everything. But when you're talking about in a business aspect and you're looking to cut, if there's a lot of overlapping parts, and it's like, well, why do we need these guys? And they miss that. Well, again, what I call bridge, they miss it. And that is so important. So yeah.
Yeah, that reintegration into activity. Because, strength and conditioning, you guys are primarily working with fully healthy, cleared athletes, full bore, let's push them. And then the physical therapists are a little bit more delicate and trying to re-educate, reintegrate, relearn. And then, it's so funny because I think we're trying to, we're risk management ultimately. And I think it's always funny that we get compared to the that post-injury portion, even though strength and conditioning can definitely do the preventative or analysis. That's, I don't think you guys necessarily like doing that nitpicky stuff sometimes.
Well, that's where I was a little bit different. So special warfare, again, we had the gamut from doctors to the strength coaches. So imagine a continuum from impact of injury, right, all the way to return to performance, like true performance, and back in the get. So if you look down that path, it goes, it has a process. But at special warfare, I wanted to integrate that process. Usually it's based upon relationships. Like you and I, we get along. I took it a different route, and I tried to, and I say I tried only because I don't know what policies they're implementing now, but is making a truly holistic program. So when developing a program, first you have, this is again, the special operations community. And this is a training pipeline for incoming special forces within the Air Force ground entities. So I try not to say, it's a special forces realm of the Air Force, because everybody immediately goes to pilots. It's the ground entity forces that integrate with other, like the Army, the Navy, they integrate with other entities to be that ground to air, facilitator. But in that, we set it up so that, like, first of all, the game, whatever the game is for us, is tactical. Their tactical training, right? Tactical training comes first. From there, the strength and conditioning coach comes in and writes the strength and conditioning program based on the training schedule. Then from there, the AT, PT, OT came in, and they were our safety arm to look at, like, have the strength coaches quantify what they're doing, look at
Mhm.
the push-pull ratio. I realize, like, people could be like, oh, the research says, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. If you see a large change in your ratio of push and pulls, or just like a lagging of undulation between push and pulls, so you have just constantly push, 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 we know that, like, if you have a high push volume, like, you're going to start to have some anterior shoulder stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So AT, they were our safety arm, what I looked at as our safety arm. Now, did they do other jobs outside of that? Yes, of course. They did our bridge program, and then also in our field, our ATs were also out in the field monitoring for heat down here in Texas, right? And other signs of distress. So they're kind of the first responder in that aspect. But
Mhm.
after the ATPTOT review on volume and other things, which is twofold. Now, like, one, we want safety for the kids, but also what I found, I say kids, they're young men and women, right? But what I found is that it also helped with some of the arguments down the road. Instead of like, oh, the strength coach, they did this program and that's causing this.
Mhm.
It's like, wait. You blessed off on this program. You looked at it and gave the blessing. So it's no longer like he did it, she did it, pointing fingers at each other. It turned it more into, oh, we messed something up. Let's collectively fix it. Like,
Yeah.
this didn't work and we need to fix it because we're seeing an uptick in X, Y, and Z. From there, it went to, the dietitian, the psychologist, and the chaplain. So it just kind of connected all these pieces. I think it's kind of funny with the Doge thing going on right now. And it's just showing how siloed the government is.
Mhm.
It's so true. It is so siloed, even within our organization. So that's one thing I try to do, is just break down those walls, develop teams, develop like a process that's not, it's policy driven versus, hey, we're friends, we're working together today, that type of thing. So yeah, that's some of my big work there. So
Yeah. Well, and I mean, so with athletic training, one of the things that I've been trying to point out with this jack of all trades is we're really good at being the center of the web because we understand kind of how everything works, and we can help direct people a little bit more efficiently when there's an issue, something that needs to be addressed, nutrition, too much loading in their strength and conditioning, these different things. But like you said, it's kind of a light root system ultimately, and where are we integrating the strongest? And that's kind of a question I keep bringing up, is what is our most valuable skill set and value, and then what is our most worthy money-wise skill set? So even outside of, the military setting, even though we can't bill third party, what is going to generate us the most money by promoting it? So that kind of goes to the value portion too. But, is it just being there for risk management to make sure, the field doesn't have a bunch of rocks on it, or, I'm thinking lightning, weather, environmental, tracking all that type of stuff, or, bringing together, like you said, communicating with the strength and conditioning coach on checks and balances to make sure that, like, it makes sense with the periodization of whatever season they're in or getting ready to do. But, looking into that as the healthcare team, I'm not elevating the athletic trainers, but are we kind of on a different level than the boots on ground strength and conditioning physical therapists? Are we kind of more of like a clinical manager to make sure things are flowing, cases aren't being dropped? I don't like the overseeing eye to make sure operations are going smoothly, of the general health stuff, since we have our hands in all these pots, we're really good at balancing most of that stuff ultimately. But are we really on that same level of, the daily interactions of the strength and conditioning coach, where we're kind of there only if an incident really happens is when we're integrated.
Raise the bar in 2025. Complete your BOC certification maintenance requirements early. Don't forget that 2025 is a reporting year for athletic trainers. Are you on track to complete your BOC certification maintenance requirements? Find out today by logging into your BOC profile at bocatc.org/BOC360. That's right, it's time, and this year is the year to renew your certification maintenance requirements. Check it out at bocatc.org/BOC360.
And this is going to sound, it might make some people angry, but I'm going to say it. The aspect, I have met maybe one, I'll say under 5 athletic trainers that would be a truly good strength coach.
Mm-hmm.
And from a PT aspect, like that gets into legalities of what you're able to do and unable to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think laying your shallow but wide web, I would advocate against that. And I'd plant your flag into that kind of centerpiece of what I call the bridge program.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, and you kind of brought it up, is like, if I think back years ago, did I know, like, just think as a common person, do you know the continuum of injury back to performance? No. In most physical therapists even are just like, oh, they had their 6 weeks of recovery, go, like, I'm done with you, you know? But no one knows about that small little window between, okay, physical therapy says I'm good, and then you're handing them off to a strength coach who's not skilled in that area. And I'll tell you, like, I've had to do it. And I'm more reserved with those individuals, which is probably hindering them even more because I don't understand, okay, they said they're fine there, but that doesn't mean, let's just say it's something small, cold ham or hammy or something like that, right? Oh, the physical therapist says they're good. That means I can go run.
Yeah.
Like, I can get them running, when that's not the case. And that's where you guys, like, that's your bread and butter. Like, the mitigating stuff, yeah, they can, like, for the DOD setting, they have EMT techs and stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying anybody can do it, but there's other people that can do it, right?
Yeah.
That are certified and able to do it. It's just another skill set you guys have.
Mm-hmm.
So I would plant my flag where you are unique versus trying to plant a lot of little baby flags all over and just say, we can do all this.
Yeah.
Look how cool I am. I would hone in there. So to go back to your question of what's your moneymaker, I'd say it's that bridge. And then that tags into, healthcare costs. And then, so this is going to tie into the financial costs. So I know you asked 2 different questions.
Yeah.
But I think the answer is the same. You got your healthcare costs, right? So if a physical or an athletic trainer were to see somebody in a clinic, there's an insurance value to that service, right? And that's what I said kind of in my post, is like, you need to show your ROI.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to show the money. And because, like, everybody's like, it's all complicated. It's complicated. There's more to it. There's this. Honestly, if you showed your ROI collectively, and this it doesn't just fall on ATs, like, this falls on leadership as well for not communicating the message. But if you showed your ROI that you're saving the government millions of dollars, and not just using, like, oh, research study over here says every hour, every dollar spent on an AT, you save $5.
Hypotheticals.
Yeah, like, that's like me coming to you and saying, hey, I'm a strength coach, look, this strength coach saved these people this much money. I can do the same. And it's like, what's your skill set, dude? Like what level are you, like, to, how are you going to quantify? And I think that, and again, I don't put this on the AT's footsteps, even though they need to be compliant with it if it rolls out, but get a system in place. And again, this is speaking to leadership versus speaking to, down and in people. You should just have to check a box, and then it quantitates, that value of what you provided.
Yeah.
And once you show your value at the level that this is taking place, meaning with H2F and that they're cutting these things, if you showed your value, like trying to pull you out of the mix becomes a lot harder than just like we're done,
Yeah.
If you're saying each AT that we host or that we have saves us millions of dollars, now take that across the DoD, they're going to be less likely to pull on that, or it's going to become a lot harder to pull.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the complexity of things. Oh, these guys save us a bunch of money. And at the level that this is being handled, these guys save us a bunch of money. Yeah, okay, this colonel, this general, whoever it is, and instead of them saying, let's just quit it, they're going to be like, no, hey, this is this, like, I understand we have X, Y, and Z problems. Go to his or her people, go get this done and fix the problem. But because it's not there, everybody's just like, and there's a deep bedded turf war between PT and ATs as well that cannot be overlooked.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think it's difficult for a lot of athletic trainers to wrap their mind around this ROI thing, because in the traditional university, college, high school setting, we're not generating money or having outgoing costs necessarily. So we can say that we're saving the school all this money, but it's really saving the athlete and that parent money and their insurance premiums and all that stuff, because we are kind of, in effect, socialized healthcare in that they're getting free healthcare for their tuition payment. That is the hill I'll die on at this point for traditional athletic training. So we have to...
You're absolutely right in that aspect. So I'm talking specific to H2F and the DoD setting. Yeah. Like, you need to know your audience, right? Whenever you're talking to somebody. The college and the professional realm is different. It's more about, these people generate money. And so your bang on your buck is the aspect of like decreased time before they're back on the field. Yeah. So that they have a team that's winning, blah, 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 generates money. Yeah. So it's definitely different messaging. I agree.
Yeah. And I think that's where we get hung up, is that our education as an athletic trainer is primarily in those settings. So we're not exposed to those types of numbers. So with the industrial and military setting, I think it will be interesting. I still consider it pretty new ultimately, and we are still obviously trying to carve out a place for us. But those have dollar signs associated with them, with the person that's injured, with the person that has to come in and cover that position, the workers' comp claims and all that stuff. So the numbers add up very quickly. And then obviously it's easier to extrapolate those numbers, because you can go and look at workers' comp claims and get a good idea of how much that injury is going to cost, or the ICD codes, whatever units you want to use. And I think you bring up a good point about that bridge that's missing, and where we really plug in nicely is we see it in college sports all the time. You have an athlete go out to physical therapy for an ACL or their reconstruction after surgery. They are doing the rehabilitation for however many appointments that insurance is going to give them. And that's where physical therapist, I think, gets stuck, is that they're kind of on an outside stakeholder to determine how much care they can probably give that person. And they're just trying to get back to that 100%, which at that 100% is when they got injured. So that's not good enough. And I think that's where you're talking, is that athletic trainer can come in, take over the care, get that integration of that limbo time. And, they can start working with the strength and conditioning coach, but can provide better guidance on what exercises they need to be really working on, because they're not going to be in that maintenance stage that the rest of the crew is doing. They need more stimulus or more technique, whatever it may be, and they just need that guidance ultimately in that programming, where an athletic trainer can come in and tell them to go do the strength and conditioning, and then we do this extra stuff on the side, or more treatment, whatever it needs to be. So I think you're hitting it on the head, and I think that's a commonality that we see across athletic training, is we try to outsource and utilize our allied healthcare providers, but they have the limitations on what they can provide the patient ultimately too. So, it's that integration, like you were saying, I think that we need to start hitting on a little bit more. Now, more than ever, athletic trainers are becoming inundated with the growing volumes and sources of data surrounding clinical injury management. In fact, the purpose of data has changed. Whether it's pre-participation examinations, electronic medical records, concussion management, nutrition, or wearable devices, athletic trainers are constantly faced with new and complicated challenges interpreting data to drive patient care outcomes, reduce injury rates, and show practitioner value. To get ahead of this change, athletic training departments turn to Preventix, a data analytics solution provider. With over 25 years of athletic training and clinical data experience, Preventix empowers athletic training and sports medicine organizations with tools necessary to quantify the impact of care interventions on patient success and outcomes. As a trusted partner, Preventix works with you to build a strategy that addresses your specific pain points, integrating all your data sources, providing clean, reliable data, dashboards, and metrics that can be immediately accessed by stakeholders at the point of care. Don't let messy, siloed data continue to negatively impact your care delivery initiatives and practitioner value. Unlock the power of your clinical data today. Visit Preventix.com for more information. Preventix.com.
Yeah, it's more how we can all play together in the sandbox versus saying I'm superior of this person or this profession or that profession. I think it's once you figure out how to play together in the sandbox, and then learn, like, even if you're in the private sector, there's money to be made in the field, no question about it, right? If the athletic trainer or the physical therapist is getting money, then they pass it here and then they pass it here, and you start to get the results. You're going to start to get more people in the door this is talking private sector, in the sports sector, they can start to, again, have those professional handoffs. And is, again, instead of just like, oh, we like each other, this is how we play together, but set up an actual process of how the continued care takes place until they're back to the return to duty status. And in the DoD, same thing. One thing I do say about the DoD, working at the level that I did, is you constantly hear about readiness, and how important it is. And one thing that I say is readiness is just a PC way of saying how much money do you cost me. And if we can answer that question, because a hurt, injured person is costing money and they're not able to do their job or whatever it is that they're supposed to do. So therefore they're costing money.
Yeah.
So always, and it is funny, if you go to the DoD and you ask them, like, pick whoever you want in the DoD, what is readiness? No one can fully define readiness other than the aspect that they're ready to deploy and stuff like that. But if readiness is bad, that means, it's costing money. And when you cost money, that's what over time, then eventually you kind of get kicked out, or, it's like, if we can return. So that's where our value, again, as a team, physical therapist, AT, strength coach, like, you solidify, like, this is the process and this is how it works.
Mhm.
And this is like normal, this isn't just a one-off that we're doing at special warfare. This is everywhere. Then it's harder to pull that puzzle piece, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's much smoother layover in that spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you basically said we need to work on marketing, defining ourselves better,
Yeah.
and then providing more numbers on what we're providing, the setting that we're in, basically. It seemed like you had some other points too.
Well, we talked mostly about the ROI. That's what we talked about now. The aspect of defining yourself, that ties a little bit into kind of where I saw your sweet spot, your meaning AT sweet spot. So what's happening across the DoD? There's confusion going on right now, and it's causing more confusion and bad decisions. So again, I was at Special Warfare. Again, we're training like elite level special forces for the Air Force, special warfare operators for the Air Force. With these individuals, we would have across the street, like across the interstate, or, it's like 5-10 miles away, they do basic military training, which is like a group fitness program. You're doing your jumping jacks, you're doing your push-ups, the running and stuff like that. So it's like a group fitness program. But these individuals are calling what they do human performance. After these generals and these people that are in charge of large amounts of money then crossed the interstate and came over to our annex where we were. And we're talking human performance. But at this point, they're numb to the words human performance. Because they're just like, this is like, yeah, I know you guys are doing what they're doing. Like, I get it. You guys all do human performance. And it's degrading positions. So one thing was at Special Warfare, one of the first things I did was try to rewrite the performance, or they're called performance description, PDs. They tell you what job you do. They have a cookie cutter program, PD, excuse me. They have a cookie cutter PD that's just like, hey, you want this? Okay, just use this. I looked at it differently as like, we need to delineate how we are different. We need to draw the line in the sand and say, we're not fitness and we are human performance. We are true performance. This isn't any qualms against the National Athletic Training Association. So I hope no one gets in trouble for this, but they tried to push one PD across of what a AT could do within DoD. I understand where their vision and their thought process is trying to, grow all these positions, but they did themselves a disservice by making all PDs, especially in the Air Force, all just the same. I tried to fight against it. I didn't get very far with that. But once you're looped into a bigger collective whole, you're no longer special. And this is saying that the person working in a clinic, or let's just say just some physical therapy clinic that support personnel is just going in for carpal tunnel syndrome. Is that athletic trainer working in that clinic doing the same thing that we did at Special Warfare? No, they're not. But they're explaining what they do as human performance. So some of the confusion came into play. Patty Doyster and some other folks explained that there's HPO, human performance optimization, which just means in life, if you can get better, get better. That's positive. Yes, that's good. None of us disagree with that concept, right? However, then there's human performance, HP. So this HPO concept then got abbreviated to HP, right? And then therefore is taking the wind out of the sail of the human performance that's supplying for warfighters, like the people that go out in the water that are in or outside the wire and are in physical combat with an enemy. versus a support personnel. A support personnel does not need human performance. They need, and this is speaking towards a job, like what they do for a living. Like they need fitness or maybe wellness or something in there, but that's for them to figure out. What I'm working on, and I actually have a paper in the works, it's actually submitted, is defining human performance for the DoD, because this is going on too much. And then these generals, and then we'll call them the bean counters, the people counting the money, right? They're just like, oh, why does special warfare have this big budget? And then BMT, basic military training, they're doing a lot more people. They have a lot more people going through, but they're doing it on this small budget.
Yeah.
But they're both doing HP. Like that's where it starts to matter. And you really need to dig in and delineate yourself between, these other people that are saying they're ATs. Not all ATs are the same, right? I'm sure you can think of some yeah, they're good at this. Let's just leave them over here. And then they're like, oh no, they're good. Like they get after it, stuff like that. So
yeah, no, and that's interesting that you bring that up, because I just had somebody on from Preventix. They help with the data stratification from athletic trainers documentation, and we were talking about how we're gathering all this data, but we're not really, it's more of superficial. The patient is what we're gathering the data on, and we're not really gathering data on the athletic trainer's performance, their success rates, their outcomes, how well are they actually doing in the clinic. And I think that's very interesting that we haven't really done a great job of keep our KPIs on an athletic trainer specifically. It's more of just how the clinic is running, how the teams are doing, generalities basically. And so it will be interesting to see him keep developing this and see if that can help determine, the specialties of different athletic trainers. Because when you get hired, nobody's really asking like, oh, like, are you more of like a rehab person, more emergency? Like, how would you categorize yourself within the team that we have established, and what are your strengths? It's,
you're absolutely right.
Just generalizations of like, yeah, I can diagnose a concussion. Like, kind of the check marks ultimately. Where, with how you're doing it as a strength and conditioning coach, you're very tactical, specific. I'm sure you would do fine at the collegiate setting, but it's definitely a way different setup. And, it's more of a condensed timeline with more periodization, I would assume, or a different timeline of periodization.
Yeah, different type. That's all.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, something comes of how he's gathering this data, because I think it would help push the athletic training profession and being able to have a report card of what are you actually really good at. Because there's some research that shows that we are so biased on what we think we're weak at, and we're not actually doing our continuing education on our weak points of our practice.
That's where like the NATA probably needs to step in. If you look at like the strength and conditioning world, just say NSCA, like they have personal trainers.
Yeah.
Okay. They have CSCS, and then we have the TSAC-F. The TSAC-F is intended for like this tactical strength and conditioning facilitator. It's intended for the police officer, the firefighter, to train their peers. It's the intent of that certification. So if you look at that, those three, they kind of set up subpopulations, right? And again, we both know that a certification, it doesn't mean somebody's competent in doing said skills. It just means that they can at least regurgitate the information or memorize the information to make it work.
Yeah.
But NATA can split into subpopulations. Like if you're on the performance side, you need to be noted as a performance person. If you're working in a health clinic, like that's different. Like the skill, like I understand you can do all of them, and like I would encourage NATA to do this, but not monetize on it. Just kind of give like, I think I would have a performance, star, instead of a star D for distinction, star P for performance, or a star,
Yeah.
Whatever, just kind of to help distinguish you different than your peers. If you're in the performance setting, if, again, this isn't my wheelhouse, so, but you guys need to, I think, across the DoD, I think with strength coaches, with athletic trainers, with physical therapists, dietitian, everybody across the board, there needs to be a clear cut, like, I'm in performance, I'm in fitness, I'm in wellness.
Yeah.
Until then, people are going to keep hiring the wrong people. People are going to keep applying for the wrong jobs, and expectations aren't going to be made on both sides of the coin. And again, like with an AT, I think your money maker is in that bridge, what I call a bridge program. So.
Well, I think the BOC is addressing that to an extent. They do have the orthopedic certification that's recently emerged, and I think it's primarily more for the hospital setting. But there's like a fellowship or educational portion to it that is pretty rigorous. So I think it's starting to bubble up. Ultimately, it will be interesting if they do some more, like you said, the performance side. Because that's where I've never understood in our educational programs how we haven't just had athletic trainers sit for the CSCS right out of out of graduation. Like, we've learned the basics ultimately. I mean, maybe a few more study here and there depending on what program you came out of, but that's such an easy translation and it's fresh in your mind. And after I took it, I think I was about 3 or 4 years out of my master's, and it actually solidified a lot of the rehabilitation parameters ultimately. The sets, reps, what are you trying to achieve ultimately, and sports specific. And I was like, well, we didn't really go fully in depth on the numbers. We were just trying to make sure that they had adequate strength, but there's more efficient ways to do it. So not to step on your guys' toes at all, but it's a good thing to have as an athletic trainer.
I'm
ultimately.
out of the field. You're not stepping on any toes either. So I just have an opinion.
Hey, listeners, ever find yourself on the sidelines needing that one crucial item? Look no further than Nexus Sports Medicine. Nexus is your go-to partner for creating comprehensive medical kits and accessories tailored for athletic trainers in any setting. From high school fields to professional arenas, Nexus has you covered. These kits are designed by an athletic trainer with meticulous organization, ensuring that you're always prepared, no matter the situation. Stay ahead of the game with Nexus Sports Medicine and keep your athletes safe and thriving. Check out Nexus Sports Medicine at nexus-sportsmed.com. That's Nexus, NEXUS-sports, SPORTSMED.com to find out more and get your perfect gear today.
This was one thing I did see across, and you probably followed it more closely than I did. But when people are talking about this H2F thing, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, I guess, and that's why I finally posted something. It's like a lot of people are posting about it, but they're just like, hey, we're going to write a petition. Hey, I'm mad about this. I'm mad about this. This is irresponsible of the DOD, blah, 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 blah. And it's like no one was providing a true solution. Not that I saw, and again, I just saw what came across my feed, and I didn't do deep research into it. I just all right, well, this is what I think. So
no, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I thought your post on LinkedIn, which everybody should go see if they're listening to this episode, I thought it was well thought out. It wasn't just bitching, and that's where I'm kind of tired with our profession, is it's just a lot of bitching, and it's not self-reflective on what we can do to make the situation better. There was a lot of nagging on the NATA of not doing their job. I mean, we know the government is bureaucratic and very messy, but the way that they notified everybody wasn't super great. I'm not sure how the contracts are supposed to work with athletic trainers in some of these branches. I think that's been my biggest question mark on the military setting is how are athletic trainers still an outside contract and not integrated into the system, like the physical therapist and strength and conditioning, from my interpretation.
With that aspect, I'll say, like, and that's where it gets really confusing, is if you like, how are they integrated into contract because of DHA and this.
Yeah.
My bottom line point is it won't matter if you had an ROI and a dollar value provided to the service you provide, and you're showing you're creating millions, then, you know, this turf war, and then whoever's in the commanding position, potentially being a physical therapist, and the pre-existing turf war between physical therapists and AT, like none of that stuff matters. It would just be a go fix this and make it happen. But that's not the case of where we're at right now. So, like, again, my big 2 points are distinguish how you're different in a performance arm, especially in the performance arm. And then 2, you got to show your ROI, and that doesn't fall directly on the AT, their feet. Like that's should be like their directors, their managers, the people should be looking up and out and showing and preaching, you know, not only their value, but everybody on the holistic team, their value and the money that we're saving taxpayers, because we don't have this lingering problem, you know, and we're able to transition somebody from injury back into, you know, we're fixing the readiness problem from a physical aspect. So,
yeah. Well, and that's with the contract relationship ultimately. I'm sure the contracting companies are doing a great job, but these are some of the questions that need to be kind of investigated of if you're doing KPIs on the athletic trainers that are under these contracts, why aren't these contracting companies already creating these numbers, you know?
Because it's not in the contract.
Exactly.
That's why.
Yeah.
And additionally, you know, I guess I'm less sympathetic to what happened to the athletic trainers right now. And I only say, like, I don't mean that in a disheartening way, but the reason is do you know what happened in 2014? I talked about it earlier.
With the strength and conditioning. Yeah,
it wasn't just strength and conditioning. It was massive layoffs across the DO or POTIF specifically.
Yeah.
But they're running into the same problems as POTIF did. And so H2F needs to look at POTIF. Even, yes, I realize they have different pots of money, blah, blah, blah. Like people are like, well, they're different, you know. It's still the same. If you look at the common problem is still there. So the aspect of, you need to show that ROI. You need to distinguish yourself.
It's just the business aspects of it, really.
Yeah, it really is. And a lot of problems, a lot of bureaucracy goes away once you have like a dollar value associated with you. Then all of a sudden it's no longer an easy flip the switch and you're done. It's like, if we turn this off, this is going to be a massive problem. So
yeah, definitely. Well, I think we did a great job of hitting on those 2 subjects. Was there anything else that you want to hit on?
No, I think I'm done complaining for the day. No, I have nothing in this. It's just standing on the outside looking in, you know, from an area that I was in. So I just wanted to, you know, kind of maybe provide some insight on the potential answer. I'm not saying my answer is right, though I will stand by, and I think my answers are pretty damn close. But yeah, I think, thank you for the opportunity to kind of explain that post a little bit more. Yeah. And it was great meeting you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, if you have any new and upcoming ideas, definitely float them my way and we'll have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it for today's episode of To the Bone. I hope we've sparked some new thoughts, challenged your perspectives, or simply reminded you to dig a little deeper. Remember, life isn't just about what's on the surface. Sometimes you've got to cut deeper and get to the bone of what really matters. To the Bone podcast is a product of Daily LLC. It's hosted and produced by Shelby Daly, ATC, and Randy Daly. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. For more on the show, visit www.tothebonepodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Get involved in the conversation. You can find us at www.tothebonepodcast.com. Drop us topic suggestions or be a potential guest. We're all about connecting with you, our listeners. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep cutting deep.